Hello guys. We're going to be doing proportional theorem questions, and then so here we're given that S is the midpoint of QR. So that means that RS and SQ are in a ratio of 1:1, right? That's what midpoint means. Just means that RS and SQ are in a ratio of 1:1. If you were to write RS over SQ, this will be equals to 1/1, right? But then you know that we can't just write 1/1. You have to write in terms of a variable, A over A. You can choose any variable. So I'm just going to write it in terms of A and A, like this. And then so now we have T. Now you see T is the midpoint of PS. So T here is the midpoint of PS. So what you can do is that you know that ST and TP are in the ratio of 1:1, right? So basically what we have now here is I'm going to use a different variable. I'm going to use Z, and Z. So now we are given that MTW. So here there's supposed to be a W. So MTW is parallel to PQ. MTW parallel to PQ. So basically you're gonna do your proportionality theorem to say that if you have a triangle like this, right, this over this equals to this over that, right? So now what you can see here is that we have this triangle over here and with the parallel lines in between, like that. So now what you're gonna do is that you're going to apply that thing in this triangle which we have over there. So now we are gonna see that TW is parallel to PQ, which means that ST over TP is equals to SW over WQ. So since ST is to TP is 1:1, that means that SW to WQ must also be 1:1. But then we are going to use a different variable. So the variable which we are going to use, we shall use J. It's up to you which variable you want to use. I just prefer using J. So now the main thing which you must do when doing proportionality theorem questions is that you must look at your parallel lines and try to fill each and every single possible bit of information which you can possibly do. That's what I've been doing in this thing, right? And then so now the question is looking for RM over RP. So you see that RM and RP, they are in correlation to these parallel lines. So to get RM over RP, sorry, yes, that's RM over RP. This is RM, RP, like that. So to get that, we see that they are in correlations with these parallel lines. So what we can do is that if we find RW and we find RQ, then we can find RM and RP. So how are you going to do that? What we must do here is that, as you can see on this side, these variables are not the same. If you can check, we have A's and W's. We have A's and J's. So now what we can do is that we want to change all the variables on this side to be 1. So we are going to change it to be, you can change it either to be in terms of J, or you can change it to be in terms of A. But then I'm going to choose to change it in terms of J, because already what we have is that the first thing which I'm going to be looking for is going to be RW, right? And RW is composed of this part and this part which has a J over there. So I can some way somehow find this part, and then I'm also gonna some way somehow find RQ. So how am I going to do that? What I'm going to look at is that I have this SQ over here, and this SQ allows me to equate the J's to the A's. Yeah, I know it's a bit complicated when you start with it, but then the more you progress, the better you get at it, right? So now what you're gonna see is that we wanna see how we are actually going to put this out, right? So what we are gonna say is that RS over SQ is equals to A over A Why? Because S is midpoint of QR. So A over A is the same thing as 1 over 1. So it's not really, that much thing. I'm just showing the marker that these are the variables which I'm using for my question. And then, so another thing, we know that ST over TP is equals to Z over Z. Why? Because T is midpoint of PS. So then now, what we have just found is that SW over WQ is equals to ST over TP, and this is equals to J over J. We say line parallel to one side of a triangle. The confusing part is that here we're using Z's, but here we're using J's. Why? That's because Z over Z, it's 1 over 1, and J over J is also 1 over 1, or let's say 1. So basically, even if I wrote J over J or Z over Z, it's still the same thing. But the reason why I wrote J over J here was to show the marker that I'm going to be using the variables J to represent the side as Q. And then so now I can start with my stuff. I can say A is equals to 2J. We can see that on my diagram, right? And then what does this mean? This means that therefore my RS, which is equals to my A, is going to now be equals to 2J. So that means that over here I have 2J. And then that means that for RW now, I now have 2J plus this small j over there, which should make my RW to be 3J. And then as for my RQ, you can see that it is going to be equals to this 2J plus this 2J over there. So it's going to be 4J. So what we are going to have is that RM over RP is equals to RW over RQ. And we know that RW is going to be equals to 2J plus J. And then RQ, we saw that is going to be 2J plus 2J. This is 3J or 4J, which gives you 3 over 4. And our reason for this is the proportionality theorem, prop theorem. And which sides were parallel? MW was parallel to PQ. And that's the video, guys. Thanks for watching. For the pops up, we show up there. I'll work on that. Thank you.